Hello everybody and welcome to our today's webinar with Migration Center. Our session today is about the Documentum In-Place path and is called Reclassify, Cleanup, or Update OpenText Documentum Repositories Without Moving Content. So let me introduce our speakers from today. On top left side is Florian, our Director of FME Products. Bottom left, Mark, Head of Product Development for Migration Center. On the bottom right side, you see Cipri, our Migration Center consultant from FME Romania. And on the top right side, my humble self, and I'm responsible for product marketing here at FME. Before we start, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. During the whole session, everybody will be muted and in listen-only mode. If any questions should arise, you can still ask us by putting the questions directly into the chat box, and we will then do a Q&A session afterwards. Also note that this session will be recorded and we'll share it with you after the webinar. All right, so let's pass it on to Florian, who will start the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark, for the introduction. So for today, as Mark mentioned, we would like to talk about our new in-place migration path for Documentum. But before we start, I will give you a short overview about what we plan today for you. So we will start with a little bit talking about challenging of content migration, just to give you an idea for which use cases you can use our in-place migration path. So then I will talk a little bit about Migration Center itself. So I will give you a short overview why you should use Migration Center and how the product looks like, what kind of components we have, and of course, I will mention some key capabilities so that you get an idea. So then I will hand over to Mark Deckert. He will give you some information about the in-place migration path, especially in comparison with the classic migration scenarios we typically address with our product. And Cipri will then do a demo for you and will show you how that works, how you can change, for example, object types, how you can change folder links, etc., within an existing repository without moving the content. And as Mark mentioned at the end of the session, we will talk about your questions and answer your questions. And yeah, so feel free to type in the questions into the question chat box. Okay, so yeah, so when we talk about challenges of migration, of content migration, so typically, especially in the OpenText Documentum space, we find a lot of different use cases which are typically addressed by our customers. So we try to separate that in different areas. So that are the classic migration scenarios, like moving content from an outdated version to a new repository version, for example, from whatever 5.3 to D7 or from 6 to 7. And also the content migration for applications based on WebTop to D2, but also to replace, for example, or migrate legacy solutions to a new OpenText solution. That could be, for example, an home, let's say, grown EPFM system to the new D2 EPFM framework from OpenText. So, but also we address the consolidation area. So that means we help customers with our product to consolidate repositories, to consolidate technology. So whenever you have, for example, or you own technologies which you want to get rid of it, so Migration Center, it's a good choice to reduce that, let's say, this amount of platforms you're using for enterprise content management. So, but also we help customers to extend the platform. So typically a customer starts in 1 or 2 divisions with an enterprise content management systems, but over the years they want to integrate more and more divisions into this new platform. So we can help here to integrate file shares from divisions to the OpenText Documentum platform, but also to integrate third-party or let's say documents which are stored in third-party systems into the Documentum OpenText repository. Also, we can replace file shares, we can replace other technologies like FileNet, like Alfresco, whatsoever, with OpenText Documentum. And also we are able to archive or decommission applications and save the information, for example, into the OpenText Info Archive product or archive. So there are many scenarios for that as well. So, but also we address a couple of other use cases that start with, for example, test data management. So whenever you build new applications, you typically need to find some really representative test data to test your new application. So migrations can help you here. But also, we also address, for example, the reclassification of content objects. So there are many use cases, as you can see here on our landscape. That's are definitely not all use cases, but that's are the common use cases of our customer base. So, and now if you look to the red, let's say marked areas, that's exactly the use cases we address with our new in-place migration path. So that means we can help customers to moving from WebTop to D2 without changing the repository. So that means we can upgrade your repository in place within the existing system and change everything so that it's fit perfectly with your D2, with your new D2 application. The same, of course, for legacy solutions. So if you have any legacy solutions in place, let's say you have a first stock or whatever kind of solutions in place, we are able to move or to upgrade your data within the repository, within the existing repository, to the new solution. And also, if you try to reclassify or enhance your information base within OpenText Documentum, so we can help you to, for example, extend the attribution, extend the quality of, or enrich the quality of your data by just simple upgrading the information with a big stack of different functions you have in place to create new metadata, to fix metadata, or also to change the object model if it's necessary to get closer to your current business requirements. Okay, but why should you use Migration Center for these scenarios? So first of all, Migration Center is 100% out of the box. So that means you can install Migration Center, you have a user front end in place, and everything comes out of the box. So you install and you can quickly start your migration project without implementing or scripting any kind of features. So everything it's really configurable via the user interface. So Migration Center is also very proven in the market. So that means we are currently running more than 450 different migration projects, and we are more than 12 years on the market for now. I think it's 13 this year. So in addition, beside the in-place migration paths, we also provide about 120 different other migration paths within our software. So as I mentioned, so you can move from SharePoint to Documentum. You can move from Alfresco to Documentum whatsoever. So there are many adapters available to make your migration project successful. So then Migration Center provides a couple of capabilities to reduce the downtime during the migration. So that means we can really migrate without interrupting your daily business operations. So that means your user can still working with the systems as usual, and you decide when to switch to the new platform. So we also provide a transformation engine which allows you to classify objects through extensible algorithms or functions. You can combine a couple of functions to build new rules and create metadata or manipulate metadata. So also, as I mentioned, so we are also fit for regulated systems. So 80% of the top 10 and about 60% of the top 30 pharmaceutical companies using Migration Center. So that today we can say it's close to an industry standard for the pharmaceutical industry. But also we are dealing with a lot of other industries like the industrial manufacturing, finance, insurance, education, and so on and so forth. So Migration is also built for high performance and managing large data volumes. We build up with our international partners, we build up a global service presence. So that means whenever you have migration projects, so please ask us if you need some services. Our partners are glad to help you to execute your migration projects. The pricing is pretty simple and flexible. So you can rent or purchase the product. So there are many options available. And we are also certified by leading ECM vendors. Just to give you an idea, which components contains Migration Center. So first of all, we have the Windows client on top. This is the control center. All operations, phases, processes, and so on, and configurations are done in this user front end. So then we have a central database, a migration database, which includes the business logic and all performance critical processes. And finally, there's the job server, and the job server is one of the main components, because the job server run the export, or as we call, scanning jobs and importing jobs. So this is the part which really moves the data or upgrade the data within a repository. Yeah. So in addition, so we provide an API and framework. So whenever you have a migration scenario, or you're facing a migration scenario which we cannot cover out of the box because, for example, the required migration adapter or the adapter is not on our out of the box list. So we have a framework, an API, which allows us, partners, but also customers to develop search connectors and integrate the connectors without, let's say, changing the core of the product. So from the migration path point of view, as you can see, so Documentum to Documentum is of course supported, but there are also a couple of other migration paths like Alfresco to to Documentum, FirstDoc, SQL databases, eRoom, FileShare, Lotus Notes, any kind of Lotus Notes applications, OpenText, so content server to Documentum, or even Outlook, SharePoint, and we have a couple of other connectors for Excel spreadsheets or CSV or XML files. So yeah, that's for now the overview about Migration Center, and I would like to hand over to Mark Deckert, and he will introduce our in-place migration path.
Yeah, thank you, Florian. I will first give you a quick overview of the classic and in-place migration approaches, and after that describe some use cases and benefits of the in-place approach. Okay, the classic migration approach is usually in 3 steps. First step is also called the extract phase, where you read or export the desired objects from the source system along with all the metadata and the content. The second step would be the transform step, where you transform the exported objects to match the format of the target system. Here you could adjust the object model, transform the metadata, and finally, the last step is the import step into the target system, where you import the transformed objects and the content into the target system. So this is a classic approach that, of course, is supported by Migration Center. But in contrast to this, the in-place migration approach looks a little bit different. The first step stays the same. So you extract all the objects with their metadata and only the metadata, not the content, from the source system. In the second step, you transform the objects to match the target folder structure and the target object model. And in the third step, these transformations will be applied to the objects in the source system, to the same objects that you scanned in the step 1. So no content is moved, but in step 2, you have the possibility to change attributes, to change the folder structure, the permissions, and even object types. So, yeah, what are use cases? Florian already mentioned some. The main use cases we see is the repository reorganization and cleanup. So you can reorganize the whole folder structure to meet your new needs, change the permissions of all objects, and also change the object model, including all the metadata. But as Florian also mentioned, replacing an existing business application with a new one is also a common use case that was requested by several customers. So, for example, you can replace a custom laptop application with a D2 application, or even migrate from FirstDoc to, for example, D2 Life Science Suite. And what are the benefits in using in-place migration? Of course, the speed, since you don't have to move any content. The migrations are pretty fast because only the metadata is read and transformed and updated. You have reduced cost because you don't need additional hardware or software. Everything stays in the same system. And you maintain a high compatibility because, for example, external references to existing documents stay valid because all internal IDs, like our object ID, are retained. So these are the main benefits. And yeah, now I would like to hand over to my colleague Chipri, who will show you a short live demo of the in-place migration path.
But before we do this, I will just tell you some words about the live demo, which Sipri will show us in a couple of minutes. So today we plan to show you a live demo from Documentum to Documentum, of course. So, and we want to show you how to update the object types, how to add some new metadata, and also to change the folder links of documents. So, but before we start with the presentation or with the demo, I will just give you an idea about the process, because everything you will see in the demo follow this process. It starts typically with analyzing the metadata in that case. So that means we will connect to the source system, which is target and source. In that case, is the same. We connect to the system, extracting all the metadata, the object model information, so and everything around the document and the folder and so on. So and then you are able to organize your migration or your upgrade process in that case. So that means you can separate, or you can put the documents which logically fits together into one migration set. So for example, we put all documents from a special object type into one single migration set. So, and then as Mark mentioned, so the next step would be the transformation. So that means you define your individual transformation rules to reach your goals. So that means, for example, if you have some mandatory fields which are not filled, or the department name has changed, or the object type is not the right one anymore, and you need some extra metadata, or you want to reduce the amount of metadata and concatenate metadata together into one new value. So everything can be done in the transformation by configuration. So, and then the next step is to validate. So that means you change all this metadata and the object types and so on and so forth, but you cannot be sure if everything really can apply to the target system or upgrade it into the system. So, and migration center here will automatically validate your new metadata and objects against the object definition or the object model within Documentum. So that means we make kind of validation steps. So that means we will check if the mandatory fields are filled, if metadata do not exceed any lengths, or are, let's say, you try to convert a single value to a multi-value or to a repeating attribute and so on and so forth. So many checks will happen and will be done in this phase. So if you detect any change, any problems or errors, which of course Migration Center will automatically show you to you, so then you can correct. You can do it manually. You can roll back the transformation process, change your metadata or your transformation model, and try it again. So it's a kind of iterative approach. So it means you can start with one single metadata and at one special object type, and you can do it on an iterative approach and add more and more functionality to your transformation model. So finally, if you're happy with the results and all documents in a validated state, so you just do the import. And this is what Cipri will also show you during the presentation or during the demo. I will just make sure that you understand the process behind our product. So and now it's time for Cipri. So please show us Migration Center in action.
Thank you, Florian. Hello, everybody. So it's time to start. So for today, I will show you how we can modulate the content from the cabinet bank customer. We have documents and emails here. There are all of the type contracts. So it might happen for some reason that are wrongfully classified, and we want to split them into contracts, this part, and not contracts, sorry, financial documents and business emails. And in the same time, we would like to move the financial documents to the contracts cabinet and the emails to the emails. So as Florian earlier mentioned, the first step will be to connect to the Documentum repository and extract the metadata from there. The content is not it's not necessary to extract the content, as we won't change it. So first thing will be to create a scanner. We will have to give it a name, demo in place. We will have to choose the adapter type, which will be Documentum. The location where the job server is. Now it's installed on this computer, so I will use localhost. We will have to give the connection parameters at first. The repository. What folder path we should scan, and it's bank customer. We also need to add the type of the documents, which is contracts now. We can also use DQL strings, DQL queries in order to do a more advanced filtering of the content. But today we will use just folder paths and document types. We need to skip the content because we don't need to download it. And to set an export location, this is mandatory parameters. Even though we don't download the content, we have to set it. Okay, then we just like that, we configured the scanner, and it's time to run it. So it started to run it. At the jobs section, we can see the progress of the running jobs. We can run multiple jobs in parallel, as Florian said. And as the scanner does his job, we can already see some scanned objects, which I will show you. So here we have all the attributes, all the metadata for the documents we scanned. Okay, when the scanner finishes its job, I guess it already did, we can also see a brief report, which is we have new 670 objects, 0 warnings and errors. Any kind of errors will be logged here in this report, and you can get back to them and see what happens and fix them. So as the first phase is over, we can move to the next one, which is creating a migration set. I already created one in order to save time, and I will use it as a template. So for that, I will just copy it. I will delete the template. I will have to select my file scan, which is this one. Select the objects. And go to the transformation rules. This is where the magic happens. So here you can create new metadata and attributes. For example, for the department, I took from the path of the object a part in which was stored the department, and I replaced some things in order to have only that part that interests us. We also can do the same for the customer name, for the contract number. In my case, everything was classified in folders. Here is the customer name, here is the department, and so on. After that, we can set the object link. As I said at the beginning, we would like that mass emails to be separated from contracts in different cabinets. So I set an if condition. I said that the content type is message. It will go to emails. If not, it will go to contracts. But I would also like to keep some part of the folder structure, so I extracted a bit of it, just a folder, and at the end I concatenated the values from the first two steps. I did something almost the same for the object type. I said that if the content type is message, then it goes to business mail. If not, it will go to financial document. After setting all the rules in the way I wanted, the next step will be to associate these rules. So I will associate some of the source attributes to the target attributes, the attributes of the new content type, which is business mail and financial document. So as you can see here, we have all the attributes and from the source and from the target put together and associated in the way we want it. The contract number, I took it earlier, I associate with the contract number in the target, the customer name to the client name, and the department, of course, department. And the same thing was done for the financial document. After all the association is done, we can click OK and start the transformation and the validation process. You can do this separately or you can do it step by step. I will do it both in the same operation. So it already validated all this validation. It's done against the target object type, as Florian mentioned. And the next step would be to do the import back into Documentum repository. So we will go to importers. The importer, it's very similar to the scanner. So the configuration, some part of the configuration is the same. As you can see, the connection parameters. I set also to auto create folders because in the target cabinets, I don't have any folder. And you can also, for improving the speed, you can set the number of the threads, which I will set to 19. The maximum allowed is 20, but I will use 19. Okay. I forgot to set the mixed. So we will say that we want to select demo in place mix set. You can also see here the mix sets that are in validated state. The mixes that are not that are already imported or in error state will not be shown here. Okay, after selecting, we can run the job. and check its progress on the job window. So the current progress is 0, but it started to pick up. So I guess we can start to check the new cabinets for the imported objects. So the importer already started to create the folders and move the content. The same would happen with the emails. So that will be from my side.
Okay,
Thank you.
So maybe we can have a look to the object, to the metadata within Documentum. So maybe you can go back to the Documentum client and click on the metadata just to show the properties, right? So,
okay. I guess it didn't finish. We were a bit faster than. Okay.
Here we go. Okay, so you can see here there are the different metadata. The type has changed from contracts to business email because we detected that was an email, and also different types or different information are set by the client name, right?
Yes, yes.
And so that means, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, and some of the source attributes that we didn't say are not filled up.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and during the transformation, that's really important to understand. During the transformation, you can do nearly do everything with the metadata. So that means you can fill missing metadata. You can, for example, change the name, but also you can extract from the folder structure some metadata. So that means, for example, what you can do with this in-place migration path, you could use the folder structure and create metadata out of the folder structure and create a kind of a metadata navigation within your repository. So that means typically now the user can search for the customer, for the client name Hapag-Lloyd in that case, and they will find all the business mails or financial documents which are tagged with this customer name. And this comes from the folder structure, right? So there are many options. You can use Migration Center in-place adapter for, but mainly also to change the object type, metadata, permissions, folder structure, etc., etc. Okay, so then let's go back to the presentation. I will take the moderation mode again to my monitor. Here we go. So you should see my monitor now. So and before we went through the Q&A session, I would just mention a couple of points here. So first of all, beside the product, so this is one story, right? So there's the product in place. You can use it. You can purchase some training and so on and so forth and use it out of the box. But also our professional service teams is glad to help you, and also our international partners. So, and we provide a couple of things. So we can provide the full service. So that means if you want to upgrade your repository, or you want to do an in-place migration, so we can really do from the full product, from the full project up to some parts of it, right? So we can, for example, offer the analyzing and planning phase. You can offer the project management for migration projects. We can help you with best practice consulting. We can just train you on the product. We can help you to implement the migration, just the implementation. We can also help you to develop adapters. So if there are adapters which are not out of the box are existing in our products, so we can also develop the adapters for you. We can do just the quality assurance if necessary. So if you're done with your migration, we can help you to build up a quality assurance methodology to make some tests and build test cases, execute test plans, and validate your migration against your use cases. And also we can do, of course, the migration validation in the pharmaceutical area, so and do the documentation for you. And of course, we also provide maintenance and support for our product. Yeah, that's about the service. So whenever you need some help with the implementation of your migration project, so then please get in touch with us. We're glad to help you. So now I hand over to Mark again. He will give us some information about our platforms and our, let's say, where you can find some information and what we plan in the future for you.
All right. Thank you, Florian, Mark, and Chipri for the great presentation and demo. Before we head on to the Q&A session, let me give you some additional information, just like Florian told you. Like I said in the beginning, all our webinars have been recorded. So if you want to check out different migration paths or different scenarios, just check out our YouTube channel, The Migration. We also have a special called Pay What You Wish. In this case, you, the customer, can decide how much they want to pay for our Migration Center software. Well, it needs to be approved by us, but you can propose a price. And last but not least, we offer a free evaluation copy of our software, which grants you a 14-day trial phase for the full exploration of our content migration software. And for any further inquiries, you can always contact Florian through the email posted on your display right now. And if you want to check out one of the above links, just look into your checkbox. I just sent the links. Let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, well, that's our website, migrationcenter.com, which we just seen in a little sneak peek just a second ago. If you want to see more, or if you want to dive into more details about our software, like product information, special downloads, videos, or our support for Migration Center, just visit our website and check it out. Okay. But let's move along to our Q&A session, and let's see what questions we got right here. I'll just read out the questions and you guys decide who's going to answer. Okay, question 1. Which platforms are supported by the In-Place migration path?
Yeah, currently we support the Documentum platform. That means we can migrate from Documentum to Documentum.
Okay, thank you, Mark, for the answer. So far, it seems we don't have any more answers. If there come any answers, any questions to your mind after the webinar, don't hesitate to contact Florian or any of us afterwards. And yeah, I think so far we are through with the webinar, and that's it from my side. I thank you for your attendance, and always remember, it's Migration Center you love to work with. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.